The pandemic response continues in that way that the government really doesn't seem to be doing anything, and like 1,000 people die per day. Is that a failure though? Not necessarily. Here, take a look at Jared Kushner.
Yeah, more than 170,000 Americans are now dead from this pandemic over the past 5 or 6 months. Are 170,000 dead Americans, would you still suggest that this has been a success story?
Yes, look, there was a lot of challenges. This has been a global pandemic, a lot of unprecedented challenges. Again, the first phase of it, people didn't know what to expect. A lot of it was happening in different states. The president was able to rush the supplies that we needed. Now we're in the middle phase where we're using all the knowledge we have right now to deal with strategically how do we learn from what we had and protect the vulnerable.
Okay, so 170,000 dead, it is a success. And he said the only issue was that early on we didn't know what to expect. We were just blindsided by this, just completely not true. Yes, there's stuff about the virus that we didn't know, but we had a pretty good idea of what might be necessary to stop its spread. Like people having PPE and things like that. The mistakes that were made in the first few months can't just be washed away by saying, hey, what are you gonna do? It was new.
Yeah, it's, there's a grocery store chain here in Texas called HEB, right?
Oh, I know HEB.
Had the best coronavirus response that I'd seen, and so grateful for HEB. I can't even tell you, like they single-handedly helped us through this entire pandemic, and they started planning for this when the virus was still over in China. So if HEB knows about coronavirus enough to have the foresight to plan ahead, right? I mean, they stocked up and they were, extending their hours, all kinds of things that they were doing. How did our federal government miss it? We all knew what was happening. We saw it happening across Asia and then across Europe. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know what else he would have said though. I don't expect Jared Kushner to come out and be like, yeah, we kind of screwed it all up. Like there's things we should have done better, but he's not going to say that, unfortunately. But in not saying that, he's excusing himself and he's giving his supporters a reason to say, oh, it's not that bad. When the reality is, you posted on Twitter that our hometown has a smaller population than the amount of people who have died now from coronavirus, which is insane. And what's funny about that is our hometown is actually the biggest city in Connecticut. So it's like it's a major city, major for Connecticut, but it's a major city and more people than that entire population have died from coronavirus. And that was a big wake-up call for me. And then even, the town that I'm in right now has an even smaller population. I'm in a suburb.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's devastating. And of course he's not going to admit that, which is why we have to play his comments and make sure that people get the correct information. Yeah, 170,000 people have died. And yes, it is a global pandemic, as Jared Kushner said, but we can also acknowledge that America has failed in its response, the worst out of any country. And honestly, with the exception of like Brazil and Russia recently, over the past few months, we have almost singularly failed. And so you don't get to say that it's this constant across the world, this global pandemic. No, I want to talk about the variables. What is it about America that has caused us to fail? And part of it is choices. And let's just briefly update people on one of the sets of choices that have been pushed by the administration over the past 2 months or so. And that is, we gotta have the sports, we've talked about that, but we also gotta go back to schools. And kids don't even get it, and they're not gonna die, and they don't really spread it, so don't worry about it. Well, maybe we should worry because Mississippi public schools have confirmed 199 cases among students and 245 among teachers. School districts have ordered over 2,000 students and almost 600 teachers to quarantine for 2 weeks. Schools in 71 of Mississippi's 82 counties have reported cases. The Daily Tar Heel reported that UNC Chapel Hill announces that it's gonna transition all of its classes to fully online instruction. Why? Maybe because the university's COVID-19 positivity rate rose from 2.8% to 13.6% last week. And so all of these schools have come back in a session very recently. It has taken virtually no time for it to spread throughout colleges, high schools, and elementary schools as well. These are the sorts of choices that we keep getting wrong that cause us to have failed worse than any other country when it comes to the response to this pandemic.
I think what is the most baffling part of all of this is who is in charge. Who are these governors? I mean, I live in Texas, so I can talk to you about bad governors and all their bad faith decisions that they make and the rest of us have to live with. But I always wonder, what are people's expectations? What did you think was going to happen? And what was your plan? Did you have any kind of contingency plan? Did you have any kind of just insight? What kind of precautions were you taking? And unfortunately, a lot of them, whenever you do hear about them, they're not enough. You have elementary school children going to school and trading masks with one another because they don't know. They don't know you're not supposed to trade these things. And I mean, what are you supposed to do? I mean, throughout this whole thing, one of my biggest successes was not having a child, and having to deal with that on top of, all the things that parents deal with these days with homeschooling and now sending their kids back to school. It's so much. It's too much.
Yeah, it is. And what was that?
It was all preventable. That's the worst part of it, is we didn't have to be here where we are this bad at this point. There were so many things that could have been done, that should have been done up to this point, that would have put us in a much better position than we're in now. But unfortunately, I think a big part of why America, the United States specifically, is struggling with this so bad, it's just a culture thing.
Yeah. No, totally. We could have had, 20,000 dead. Would have been devastating. Would have been worse than swine flu, let alone Ebola or anything like that. But it could have been a hell of a lot better. It could have been, one Bridgeport, Connecticut better in terms of the death toll, but we have gotten lots of things wrong and we will continue to. I don't know about Houston, but I walk around and see the vast majority of people still not wearing masks. And we have, our top elected officials are still wishy-washy at best on it. Trump isn't telling people they need to wear masks and they need to socially distance and all of that. And now I read a headline earlier today, America's alt-right is fueling Europe's anti-mask protests. Europeans, they're sharing coronavirus conspiracy theories and photos of US protests to plan their own. So not only have we ruined our response, but we're doing our best to make sure that Europe gets messed up as well.
Well, what's so funny about that to me is, up to this point, a lot of the conspiracy theories that have come out about coronavirus were very, they would kind of fall apart as soon as you say, well, what about the rest of the world? This is not just an American problem. This is not just a thing that the US government is doing. And they're like, oh, all the other world governments are in cahoots with us. And I was like, that seems like a stretch. Like, I don't know how you would prove that or assert that even. So it is interesting. I am curious to see what these Europeans actually believe and think and how they're distinguishing it, especially since they've been dealing with it for so much longer than we have.
Yeah, and by the way, here's one prediction that I'm definitely gonna make. If they're successful, if the alt-right creates these, no mask, no distance protests, and they start putting pressure on their governments to not require people to take these minor precautions, it will result in numbers going up. And that will be used by Trump and his administration to say, hey, look, we're not the only ones who are failing. We already know. He recently announced that New Zealand's numbers are spiking. Do you know what they spiked to on the date he was talking about?
What?
9 cases.
Oh my God, yeah.
But the percentage exploded. Think about the percentages, Yasmin. And so if it happens in France and Germany, and because of us, they're gonna claim that that's a justification for the response we've had and how it's not that big of an issue, because look, other countries are having it bad too, and it's gonna happen.
It really emboldens the conspiracy theorists, but it's more strange to me how aligned Trump is with the conspiracy theorists and how he is focused on getting them on, well, because they think that he's the savior. They think that all the bad things in the world, Trump is going to fix them. He isn't the bad thing, he's gonna fix the bad thing. So I don't blame him, I guess, for pandering. It seems right up his alley.
Yeah, it does.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.